We are here for day 3. I'm a little tired. It's okay. You're probably tired too. We're not as tired as Wendi Adelson. Can you imagine how tired she must be after the roller coaster that she was on yesterday? I don't think she expected that. At the end of testimony, it was a full because you were holding the gun, weren't you, Chutney?
You, however, had time to hide the gun, didn't you, Chutney? After you shot your father.
I didn't mean to shoot him. I thought it was you walking through the door.
I don't think Wendi Adelson expected that defense attorney to come after her the way that she did, because the beginning of cross-examination was so friendly, and a lot of points that the defense wanted to highlight were made, like your mom didn't talk to this person and your mom didn't talk to that person. But then at the end, I am still reeling from the reveal that Wendi said, nah, my mom's not controlling. And then she's telling her friends, I feel like I'm living essentially somebody else's life. And I don't even know if I ever wanted to get married. And I really maybe don't want to move from Tallahassee, but I'm afraid to tell my family, and that's my summary, because she said I need to save face with my family. But it is some testimony very sad to hear. Some testimony of Wendi Adelson was very frustrating. And then that sadness was really kind of the overriding feeling of Rob Adelson's testimony. His testimony was just so sad. His sadness was so heavy. He's like, these things were just such big red flags to him because he had enough time, I think, and distance away from his family that they struck him as huge red flags. And you could see how heavy that was for him. So after that, where do we even go today? I don't know.
You observed that her TV was broken.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that. When did that occur?
That would have been around the week of June 11th to 18th, somewhere in that time period. I went over Wendy's to spend time with her and the kids, and she asked me to take a look at the television. I turned it on. She said there was a problem with the TV. So I turned it on expecting to see input 1 flashing, or, the kids pushed the wrong button or whatever. And what I'm looking at when I turn it on is a screen that's been partially shattered, that's been struck by an object.
I'm not saying TVs don't get broken by objects in a house with kids. I don't know. Remember the OG Wii remotes? It happens. I get it. But here's what's sus to me. Do y'all remember the date that Rivera and Garcia went up to Tallahassee the first time? Rivera and Garcia went up to Tallahassee in June. So it's interesting to me that the TV was broken in June and just stayed broken, but there was no repair until the day of the murder. And the TV looked like it was struck by an object. Look, sometimes kids strike TVs with objects. But at 3 and 4, they're going to tell you, because they're going to freak out if the TV that is broken because of something that happened.
So she had a broken TV.
All right, and did she tell you what happened to the TV, how it got into that?
No, she kind of asked me to look into the TV as if, she didn't know. I looked around. It was impossible to me that the kids would have done it, but I didn't know the better explanation at the time. So I was kind of mystified as to what happened.
Why is it implausible to you that the kids did it?
It looked like a human being stood, between 5 and 6 foot, something like that. It stood in front of it and hit it. That's what it looked like. But she was asking me.
Okay, so it was like an impact mark, like a round impact with spider webs.
Exactly, and then the pixels are distorted. Most people have probably seen this. So it's, and it wasn't completely shattered. You could sort of see what was going on the television, but it's not a TV anybody would normally watch.
July 14th, the Monday before the murder.
Yes.
Did you see Wendi Adelson on that
shit.
date?
Yes, we had contact throughout the day trying to arrange some kind of date. It kind of ebbed and flowed. But she was real enthusiastic about seeing me at one point, and then mid-afternoon, let's just meet at yoga is what was decided. But then when we left yoga, we'd barely spoken. I was just getting a vibe that this is over. Tried to talk about the relationship, didn't go very well. It was pretty clear to me. My internal thoughts were this is over. And she didn't want to spend time with me the rest of the week, so I just put my hands up like this. I remember this vividly, and just turned around and walked away.
Where were you when that was happening?
We're in the parking lot of Journey's Yoga over by Winn-Dixie.
Okay, so you have your 2 respective vehicles
Not the Winn-Dixie.
Yes.
You're parting ways.
Yes.
Okay, what happens as you walk away?
Get about 10, 15 feet away from her, and she calls after me. I turn around, and she had a series of detailed questions about what I would be doing on Friday. I had a trip to Tennessee planned, and she wanted to know if I was going on that trip.
Hey-o, what do you mean that she had a series of detailed questions about your travel plans? Because it seemed that Wendi also knew the schedule for Dan Markel and when he would be traveling on Saturday.
And she wanted to know what route I would be taking. And if I didn't go on the trip, why wouldn't I go on the trip? And I answered the questions as best I could, but I was confused why.
Why do you give a fuck?
At that moment, she wanted to know the details of what I was doing on Friday when she expressly didn't want to spend time with me on Friday.
Okay, and we now know that Dan Markel was murdered on Friday.
Yes.
Right? If you had taken the trip as planned, which is as you reported to Wendi that day, what would your route have been?
I would have left my house at about 11 a.m., which Wendi knew. I'd related my plan to her earlier in the relationship. Needed to get to Atlanta for dinner and was worried about traffic and stuff like that. So I would have left at 11, and I would have driven down. I would have got to Capitol Circle in Thomasville, which is close enough to Danny's house that it kind of gave me the creeps. It was kind of weird. Yeah.
Are you aware, sir, that you were suggested as a potential suspect in this murder? Where were you when Dan Markel was murdered?
I was in Tennessee because I had left on my trip the night before.
So you changed your plan.
I changed
Yeah, Jeff was like, this shit's fucking weird. I'm getting out of Dodge. Good job, Jeff.
my plans at the last minute.
And didn't tell her, I bet.
All right, and you provided law enforcement with some receipts and things to prove that you were in Tennessee at the time?
All that, and I
more.
got a flat tire, so I ended up getting videotaped at a Kmart. And I know the TPD used that to exclude me with the timestamp on the surveillance footage.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Sir, there was an angel on your shoulder that was like, you know what we need right now? We need a motherfucking flat tire.
At some point, did you learn that the killers came to Tallahassee in June, not just in July?
Yes, when the arrests were made and the documents were released, I learned that, yes.
And did you put together some facts about your travel plans that day that could have potentially made you a suspect on that trip as well if the murder had happened as
Yeah,
planned?
that Friday, I was scheduled to go to a business trip in Gainesville, leaving at 11 a.m. So 2 times in 2014, I leave town on a trip by myself in my car, and both times hitmen are in town trying to kill Danny Markel, once successfully, obviously.
Are you familiar with the type of vehicle that was originally...
Oh my God. We have learned from Wendi Adelson's ex-boyfriend that both when the hitmen went to Tallahassee in June and when they went to Tallahassee in July, he was scheduled to leave at 11 a.m. on a business trip. It's real interesting that this murder took place just after 11 a.m. So what we have learned on direct examination from Jeff is that it was clear the relationship was over, but Wendi was like, I just need a week, no contact, but then sent an email that seemed to be breaking up with him right before the murder happened on Friday. And they went to yoga together. And then in the parking lot, she's like, wait, what are your travel plans again on Friday? And he's like, this is weird. We're breaking up. Like, why would you want to know where I'm going and when? Like, strange. What are your travel plans? Okay, so where are you going? What route are you taking? And then he changes his travel plans. So when law enforcement looks into him as a suspect, he has a receipt from a flat tire that he gets showing that he was out of town because he went out of town early after Wendi asked him all the sussy questions. And he told you on the stand indirect that he thought Wendi was setting him up to be a suspect. And yesterday, when her brother Rob said she never texted me about a relationship, in fact, it was so odd that she had this secret relationship that her kids and her parents and everybody else knew about, she texts her brother, oh, I've got this secret guy. Nobody knows that I'm dating him. It's strange enough that brother Rob tells law enforcement, are there any coincidences here? And then he testifies that not just is the TV broken, but it looks like somebody punched it. There's an impact and then spider webs. And it had been broken since June. Oh, I'm sorry. When did the hitmen go up to Tallahassee the first time? June. On the lunch break of day 3, I didn't think we could get a more jam-packed group of testimony than we had yesterday. But the amount of information that comes in on these direct examinations is quite substantial. We haven't yet really seen a witness that it's like, all right, let's keep it moving, because it is so much information. The testimony of Jeff Lacasse was wild about the coincidences that weren't coincidences of what was going on with him and Wendi, and whether or not Wendi was seeking specific information about Jeff to make sure that he was wrong place, wrong time when all of this went down. And it's very clear that Jeff sees himself as a potential fall guy in all of this. Wendi knew that Jeff was leaving Friday around 11 a.m. Wendi knew that Dan Markel, the victim in this case, was leaving on Saturday. And the hitmen seemed to know that there was a window to kill Dan Markel after 11 a.m. in the morning. And somebody knew that Dan Markel was going to the gym that morning. And Dan and Wendi had had that conversation on the phone, that he was dropping the kids off and going to the gym. Interesting that even though Wendi had that information, somehow the hitmen who only spoke to Katherine Magbanua knew that information. Who's giving that information to Charlie then? Is it Wendi or is it Donna? And those are the things we're going to start seeing, I think, thread through the information that's coming in this prosecution. I very much like the way that the prosecutors are bringing in these witnesses, the order that they're bringing in these witnesses. The story is fairly clear through the direct examinations. This is not a trial where we're sitting here wondering, where is that going to go? We're seeing the threads that the prosecutors are pulling on immediately. So it's really interesting. I think the prosecution is doing a great job of telling the story of this case. We had a cross-examination of Wendi Adelson yesterday that had some moments where I was like, oh, okay, the defense, go get her. Not quite as much today, so we'll see where that goes after lunch.
Did you review checks from Adelson Institute to Katherine Magbanua?
I did.
Tell me all the
And
things.
in what accounts did you find those checks?
They were deposited into Katherine Magbanua's, sometimes in her checking, but a couple of times they went into her savings.
Okay, and they were coming out of Adelson Institute's business account with Regions?
Yes.
How many total checks were there from Adelson Institute to Katherine Magbanua?
There was 44 checks.
Were all the payroll checks handwritten out of that practice?
What do we see here?
This is a list of the checks that she received from the Adelson Institute.
List of checks.
Okay, so this is a summary of the checks.
It is.
There's also a footnote at the bottom that says, note, check 2083 was written by Harvey Adelson, dated April 11th, 2016. So there's a little footnote down there. And then they have the different periods with memos. Almost all the checks are $407.58. The very first check is $203.79. The check numbers are in groups of sequential and lots of groups of sequential. But if they have payroll, it's odd that they're sequential. After the lunch break, the prosecution has called Katherine Magbanua to testify. Katherine Magbanua was dating Charlie Adelson at the time that this murder of Dan Markel went down. Charlie at some point asked her, and I think in her testimony we'll probably find out the dates of that, but we'll see, asked her if she knew a guy. And based on what we've seen in the probable cause affidavits, Katherine Magbanua reached out to her children's father and said, hey, this dude's got some cash. You have time for a job up in Tallahassee? So we are going to hear from Katherine Magbanua. She went to trial twice. The first trial, the jury hung as to her. The second trial, she was convicted. She is currently serving life in prison. Her appeal was denied in July of 2025. So her appellate rights are done.
When did Charlie Adelson first bring this idea up to you that I'm looking for someone to harm my brother-in-law?
This was around October. What stuck out in my head was on Halloween on October 31st.
What?
And
What did you just say? You're telling me that Charlie brought it up to you right around Halloween of 2013, the same time that Wendi Adelson stopped buying the house in Tallahassee? That's what you're telling me?
what year was that?
That was 2013.
Okay. And so on Halloween, what is your memory of what y'all were doing that night that you're able to remember that happened that night?
Well, we were out in Lincoln Road. It was like a kind of like a block party in Lincoln Road. And then when we were getting ready to get into our cars, he jumped into my car, and he basically suggested that do I know anybody that can harm someone?
Katie, what did he say?
And were those the words he used, harm?
Yes, ma'am.
What did Sigfredo Garcia know about Charlie Adelson?
At that time, I don't think he really knew of him yet.
I mean, you mentioned him.
At some time, did he become aware that you had started dating
Oh,
someone
this
else?
is what Sigfredo knew about Charlie.
And there's one phone call in the phone records that we're going to hear more about with the next witness. It's from Sigfredo Garcia to Harvey Adelson on July 1st, 2014. Do you know anything about that phone call?
What now?
Yes, ma'am. There was a bit of an altercation between Charlie and Sigfredo. I believe prior to that, like a couple hours before that, where like he saw us leaving and then he kind of blocked off where I was like residing. Like we were already in the car, me and Charlie were, and he stopped and started screaming some stuff, but we didn't know what he was talking about.
Okay, so when you first started dating Charlie back sometime shortly before around Halloween of 2013 or October of 2013,
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
right? Garcia didn't know about it.
I
But
believe
it's-
he didn't know anything
Okay,
about
but
it
at
yet.
some point he learned and was jealous and there was a confrontation.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I want to hear.
So
I want to
how
hear
does
that call too.
confrontation explain a phone call to Harvey Adelson?
I think he was trying to contact Charlie, and maybe he somewhat probably Googled, try to find, and that's the number that he had.
Did he call the
gotten.
dental office and get the
Okay,
cell
maybe
phone
he was
number
looking
for Harvey?
Dr. Adelson or something like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But to your knowledge, there's no connection between Garcia and any member of the Adelson family other than you.
No, ma'am.
Did you relay the message to the killers that the victim was going to be going out of town the day after he ultimately was killed?
No, ma'am. I
Did
had
you
no
know-
knowledge.
You didn't know anything about Dan Markel's travel schedule.
No, ma'am.
Do you know whether his travel
Somebody
schedule was
did.
contained in the documents inside that manila envelope?
I would think a lot of information was there because for some reason, Sigfredo knew information and Charlie knew information, and that's why the whole confusion was on me. And it's
Okay, but you don't know what was in there. You didn't look at it, and you didn't relay that message about the travel.
no, ma'am. Had no knowledge of it.
All right. When you opened the Ziploc bag, did you notice that the money was stapled together?
Yes, ma'am. It was.
It was, okay. Did you notice something else unusual about the money?
At that moment, I didn't when I opened it, but a couple days after the fact, it was wet and starting to mold.
The money itself was damp to the touch.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and did you ever mention that fact to Charlie Adelson?
I'm pretty sure I contacted him and told him why is the money wet.
What do you mean pretty sure? You did or you didn't?
That I didn't.
Okay, and when you contacted him and said the money's
Plus, it's in a plastic bag. It can't breathe.
wet, or you just mentioned to him the money's wet, did he have a response?
Yes, ma'am. He told me
Go
told
ahead.
me that that his mom washed the money.
That you physically washed the money.
Yes, ma'am.
We use analytical software to kind of help us out with this, to crunch large numbers. But we were able to actually compare all of the handsets that were here in
animations are so
Tallahassee
good.
around those specific locations and times with all of the records, the phones and the phones that they were communicating with for all of our subjects in the investigation. And what we did find is, and this is slide 19, we did find a common number that was also in the call detail records for one of the subjects of the investigation.
And was that subject Harvey Adelson?
It was, yes.
And is this Harvey Adelson?
Interesting that you're the one who's tying everybody together? Wait, is it because of that accidental call with Sigfredo Garcia? No. Yes, because Sigfredo maybe like Googled Dr. Adelson and called the wrong Dr. Adelson. Magbanua just testified that Charlie and Sigfredo had a little bit of a confrontation. And then Katie said Sigfredo called Harvey, not Charlie. Did that mistake of calling Harvey help this move forward? Because that's not on Harvey. Harvey didn't call Sigfredo. Sigfredo called Harvey. Harvey's cell phone number was on the answering machine at the dental office. So if they called Adelson Institute and got the voicemail, Harvey's cell phone number came up. One number in common. One. Needle in a fucking haystack. One number in common. And it came from Harvey's phone records. At the end of day 9 million of this trial, I'm kidding, we're on day 3. So much information has come into evidence. It doesn't feel like these are individual court days. Wendy's ex-boyfriend testified this morning. It feels like it was a year ago. Not only is court running till after 5:30 local time, they are not having a ton of sidebars. They are not having a ton of breaks. Court has been moving along with fairly densely packed testimony. The prosecution is on witness number 17 in 3 days. And all of these witnesses have had a tremendous amount of information that they have brought to the table. Today, we saw Wendi Adelson's ex-boyfriend on the stand, Jeff, who had a ton of information. Katherine Magbanua, Charlie's ex-girlfriend. June, Charlie's other ex-girlfriend. And now we are getting into the expert testimony with the financial investigator and Sergeant Corbett, who is doing the tech data and overlaying the tech data. Here are the things that I remember that blew my mind after lunch today. The timeline is becoming much more clear in this trial for me. So as we are watching through, the dates that are standing out are starting to get connected back to other things. So the grandma motion in mid-October 2013, the same time that Wendi Adelson is getting under contract on a house that she liked and wanted to buy. But on October 30th, Wendi just casually drops to her mom in conversation that she's under contract on a house she wants to buy. What does Donna do? Donna goes to Charlie immediately. Your sister just, oh, by the way, today mentioned that she's under contract on a house that she likes in Tallahassee. And Charlie's like, she's stupid. What is she doing? This is not going to stand. Charlie then goes to Wendi. I need to talk to you. Gets Wendi to pull out of that contract, which Wendi does on Halloween. What else does Charlie do on Halloween? Charlie goes to Katherine Magbanua and says, hey, I need you to help me take care of a guy. I need you to help me hurt someone. Wendy's already been denied relocation. She stipulated that there would be no relocation. Wendy's emailing her friends. I kind of like my job. Maybe I'll stay in Tallahassee. It's going to be easier for my kids if we're not driving up and down Florida all the time. I don't really want to go live in South Florida with my mom. We saw that email yesterday. She finds a house she likes. She gets it under contract. And then her brother has a conversation with her. She withdraws the contract and her mom goes, Charlie, you're a miracle worker. How do you do it? And then Charlie, of course, brags to his mother, well, Mom, I just told Wendi that there's like a million reasons she shouldn't buy a house. And, you know, owning is like being in a marriage. And how you don't even want to be in another marriage, Wendi, and a bunch of other things. But I told her. So I got it done, Mom. Bragging back to his mother that he had gotten his sister Wendi to withdraw that contract. What did Wendi say on the stand yesterday?
At that point, I didn't have the money I needed to buy the house because Danny didn't pay what he was supposed to.
What did the financial investigator, forensic accountant, say today?
Did Wendi Adelson have the means in her account to pay for a down payment for this home on Whittendale?
Yes.
What's in the text messages today between Donna and Charlie? That Dan is trying to get after Wendy's $500,000 bank account, one of her bank accounts. We don't know if that's an investment account. We don't know if that's liquid or wet. musty. But we know that Wendi is not being accurate when she says she couldn't afford it. And that's why she had to pull back on that contract to buy the house that she liked. But Donna was real upset about that grandma motion and was texting Charlie, basically, who the fuck does this guy think he is? He wants to see his kids. And if Wendi doesn't have the kids, he wants the first opportunity to have them. Which means that if it was Wendy's days with the kids and Wendi had a conference or Wendi had to work late or whatever, if Wendi wasn't available, Dan gets asked first. Dan Markel gets the first opportunity to be with his kids before she gets a babysitter, asks her mom for help or whatever. He gets the first opportunity. Now, if he can't do it, he's already out of town, etc., then she can make childcare arrangements. Donna tells Charlie that that is impossible. After lunch today was kind of wild. We learned a lot from Katherine Magbanua. We learned a lot from Jeff this morning. We saw how Jeff lays out the way that he was set up in things, that his travels aligned exactly with when the hitmen came up to Tallahassee. Katherine Magbanua was like, I didn't know Dan's schedule. What a wild day in court. After yesterday, I'm like, I can't believe we have jam-packed everything in this. But we learned how much Wendi knew today. And we got to hear about the musty money, the wet money. I know all of y'all are like, wait, Katherine Magbanua said the money was actually wet? Yeah. And she asked Charlie Adelson, why is the money wet? Why is the money actually wet? Donna, why are you washing the money with water before you bring it to Charlie's house? Why are you giving stacks of payroll checks to Katherine Magbanua signed by you through your son's and husband's dental practice? Why is your husband paying someone who doesn't work at his practice? Why are the payroll checks sequential? Why are some of them deposited before the payroll period that they're for? The fact that this all got tied together because Garcia got jealous over Charlie Adelson and made an ill-advised phone call is wild to me. Garcia calls Harvey Adelson, because he's seemingly trying to find Charlie's number, calls Harvey. And when they took thousands and thousands of phone numbers and tried to find which phone numbers from the tower dump connected to anyone in the Adelson family, they came up with one fucking call. One call. And it's Sigfredo Garcia calling Harvey to leave a voicemail because he's pissed at Charlie Adelson because they had some kind of confrontation when Charlie was picking up Katherine. And then Charlie and Katherine are texting back and forth the next day confirming that they knew about it because Charlie, I'm sure, got a phone call from his fucking dad, Harvey, and said, Charlie, what the fuck is this voicemail? Maybe Harvey didn't say what the fuck, but vibes. And then Katherine is like, yeah, he's a fucking pussy, among other things that were said. So Katherine's pissed at Garcia for being pissed about Charlie. That is the one thread that connects it. We learned so much fucking information in court today. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerd.app.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.